How can somebody here on this physical world live their life to the fullest potential?
Okay, the fullest potential is number one, you have to know thyself and love yourself. And then you can love others. You have to love yourself enough to be authentic. And once you can be authentic, then you can do anything to your potential because you're doing what you're truly here to do, whatever that is. People think, oh, I'm supposed to be, famous or the best doctor, or the best lawyer, whatever it is. No, sometimes you never know your impact. I found that your impact by talking to one person who you're not even considering it. And the impact you have on their life is so extraordinary that is your purpose.
This is Andro Mammo, and I am so happy to have this person sitting next to me. Please welcome Miss Sloan Bella.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for yours. Yeah.
Thank you. This has been a conversation that I've been looking forward to for some weeks. And I'm just very excited to just break it down and just get to know you a little bit more.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you know my taste in food, but yes.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good taste.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
So I want to first start off, you're an author, you're a TV personality, but you're also a psychic medium.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know if it's possible for the people that don't know, what is a psychic medium?
Okay. Some people call us crazy, but what it is a heightened awareness of the environment around the physical environment. That's what I would say. So you are born, just like some people are born double jointed or born with agility or a higher intellect, you are born with the ability to navigate energy that people can't see.
Wow.
So I would call it that. And it is a genetic trait. It does run through families, in my opinion.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if it's possible, what was your childhood like?
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
It was, Anyway, first of all, I was born into the foster care system and I got adopted at just about a year old. And when I was in my adopted house, obviously I was a little kid, like a year. So I knew nothing that I'm aware of. And my family was very business oriented, professional, educated, higher education, university levels, engineering, corporate CEO kind of energy. I went to private school, all of those things, public school and private boarding school. The British love that. But as a young child, my biggest memory is of my dad, who, when I was about 4, I asked him, what happens when we die? I think that's a common question, actually, for little kids might ask that. And he told me, basically, he was an engineer. He said, you rot in the ground. And I was horrified. Like, I remember distinctly, like, panic stricken.
Wow.
Horrified. Wow. And I remember having nightmares and thinking about it. And I would get kind of tapped on the shoulder when I was asleep by a woman. And she said, you need to go tell your father that there is a God and he knows it. So it was actually his mother. I had no idea of this woman. She died when he was a young man, maybe late teens or 20s. Never talked about her. I knew nothing. And I'm not from that gene pool. So I have no idea who these people are anyway. Okay. Except for the 2 that were raising me.
Right.
And I woke him up every night. I would go down the hallway through the bathroom, tap him on the shoulder and describe what I was hearing, which at first he put me back to bed. Then he would become enraged. And then it was a good 6-year battle between us because I would see what I'll call them entities, but they are actually what people describe as aliens around my bed at night. I know what it sounds like.
Wow.
I would wake him up every night. This went on from age 4 to age 10.
Okay. And from the first experience that you had at age 4, were you scared at that point? Like the first time that you experienced something like this?
Not of the people, but of the, what I call aliens, meaning non-human formed energy that stood around my bed. That was frightening. And I used to wonder if they lived under my bed or in my closet. So I was always checking under my bed. You know, I wouldn't touch the floor. So this got me in trouble every night. I would do a dive bomb run and then hit the bed against the wall. And they're like, why can't you just get into the bed? And I'm like, because they might grab me. I thought they were under the bed.
Wow.
I had no idea where they were coming from. They manifest dimensionally, which I came to know older. It's not, we are silly if we think that we just live in the perception of like touching this table, touching the
Right.
wall. So they were dimensional beings as far as I know. But yeah, it caused a lot of problems.
Wow. And as a kid, was this something that you accepted early on, or was this something that you maybe ran from at the
I
beginning?
never ran from it. I always accepted it. I'm in your face about everything and nothing's changed. Like
Wow.
what you see now is exactly how I was in a little body wearing a really ugly dress or something, right? But no, I refused. I mean, I was sent to the psychiatrist, yes, if not locked up a few times, but, evaluated. And I'm just like, I'm sorry you can't hear them, but I do hear, this is what I feel. So they then called me odd and strange and weird. And, and then it became kind of, she's the problem in the family. So then it was kind of scapegoated to everything else that was dysfunctional.
Wow. In your opinion, how did those early experiences from your childhood shape the person that's sitting next to me right now?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I hated I'm laughing because I've accepted it. I hated my childhood. I mean, I loved the house, the horses, the things that I got to do, the lessons, the neighborhood in Toronto. I'm from Toronto, Canada. But I believe if you're going to help people get over things, maybe it's interesting to have lived it because I lived it. So I call it a psychic childhood, which means pretty much every person who's a psychic or a medium, and there is a difference between them, but every person that grows up like that has a series of intense experiences that are not the norm.
Okay.
They're extreme, like a lot of deaths, a lot of running away, a lot of drugs, a lot of beatings, a lot of abuse. It's not a quote normal childhood from anyone I've ever met who does this professionally.
Do you think that all of those issues that you described, that people that go through this experience a lot of the same things, do you think it's because the people around them just have a hard time accepting what gifts you have?
Well, that's one reason. Yeah. I mean, if you're a logical, educated person, none of this is taught in school, none of this. So that's problematic. I believe my kids were educated with it, and believed fully in it until they got to high school, and people then threw religion at my children and then said, your mother's going to burn in hell, which is not really up to them to say, but that came out of it.
Crazy.
So my kids would come home and say, you're going to burn in hell. And I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, really?
Yeah.
What did I do?
Okay.
Meanwhile, the person saying it is way more corrupt, on a whole, I mean, day-to-day life. But, I feel it has more to do with the child that is a healer, because there's a lot of people that say they're psychic, and they are, okay, that do not do it for a living. But those that do it for a living, it's a calling. You can't really escape it.
Okay.
I've tried.
Okay.
When I say that, I've tried to do everything else, but you're always called back to it.
And excuse my ignorance, but if I may, you mentioned that there is a difference between being a psychic and being a medium.
Yes. Yeah.
What is that difference?
Okay. A psychic is not necessarily a medium, but a medium is always psychic. But a psychic is a person that can see, hear, and feel future events, past events, and present events. Okay. A medium connects with energy of people who've passed out of the physical, but they can also predict future, past, or however. It's not predicting the past, but they can feel what happened in the past. So mediums are always psychic, but not every psychic is a medium.
Okay. And just another thing, just to fully understand. So for example, let's say we're walking in the supermarket, right?
Right.
And just random people are walking by you. Are you kind of, as they're walking by you, seeing things in your head about them and their lives? Or is it more something that like you just tap into with a specific person? Like,
it depends on the day, to tell you the truth. If I've been working a lot, I dare not go to a supermarket, because if I've had 6 clients, I'm open.
Yeah.
And then God forbid, I'm going to like look at people and go, oh, I don't care. Because the truth is I don't care. Like, I mean, I just don't have the bandwidth. I mean, but yeah, it depends.
Wow.
Sometimes I will see people and know like that person's really depressed, or I can read it. Like I go by them and I get like a quick, almost like you see in those movies with the computer going like this.
Okay.
I get just really quick like this. And sometimes I'll tell whoever I'm with, that person or whatever, but a lot of times I don't care.
Wow.
Just because I'm in a hurry going
Yeah.
wherever. And I'm like, I've got to think about whatever.
Do any of those, I want to call them visions, but sometimes you said that you could see future events sometimes, past
Past
events.
events, yeah.
Sometimes looking at the future events, does that ever scare you?
Well, you're bringing, I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot. You have to, how do I put this? Because I'm older, I've experienced it longer, I guess, than like a 5-year-old might come in with it. So I have a frame of reference from where things happen, but I have predicted things that have happened that have been horrific. Yes. I've said it out loud, and I get a thing. I tell people, I named it psychic Tourette's. So if something's going to happen, and it's usually my family members, I will tell them to their face, and it usually will happen. But it's not like, you're gonna, with lottery kind of things, it's more about they're leaving the planet type of things.
Okay.
So I have experienced people's death, some famous people's death, and my own children passing. I think my son passed. But my stepson passed. And so it was 24 years in between my husband's oldest child, who incidentally was my age. I'm between his 2 kids' age, second family, whatever. But anyway, when my first experience, really strong experience, was when I got pregnant with my youngest son, Keithy, and I heard the words, "One's coming, one's going." And I only had 3-year-old Jason and then my belly, right? I wasn't even sure I was pregnant. Like,
Wow.
I'm talking on the day I got pregnant, I heard the words. So I looked on a calendar and I'm like, when would this baby be born if I got pregnant? And he would have been born in December. Well, his older brother was December. So then that's how I correlated that one comes and one goes by birthday. Jason's a July birthday,
Okay.
so no. And Jimmy was a December. Anyway, as the pregnancy grew, it drove me insane because I'm like, maybe I'm off. And I thought when Keith was born, then his brother would die, but it didn't happen like that. So I was safe for a couple of months. And then I heard Halloween. So I talked to my stepson. This is actually really true. I called him, went to his work, which he was working with my husband. And I said to him, "You're going to die. How do you want me to bury you?" Like, I literally, just like this.
Give me chills.
Yeah. He thought I was crazy, of course, and he did, because he also knew me on a private level.
Right.
And he would see me be crazy in different ways, because I was always so jealous of his dad. So and he'd just laugh at me and be like, "What are you saying?"
Yeah.
And I was just like 21 or 2 at the time. So I was crazy. But at that time, I was closer to 30, and obviously because I was having my second child. But I told him that, and I remember him like laughing at me, but he told me he wanted a traditional burial. He wanted to wear the same outfit that he wore to a wedding 2 weeks earlier, which was actually his dad's outfit at our wedding.
Wow.
Which was interesting. And he said, just traditional Catholic. And he entertained. And then we went about it. And about a week later, I called him and said, you really need to get back to rehab, doctor, whatever. And I remember I cussed him out because he laughed. Sagittarius love to laugh. And the next morning he passed. We got that call. I mean, he passed at work, but we buried him in that outfit. And so exact outfit. And then 24 years later, it happened with my own son, but my stepson, and I was doing a live stream on my YouTube. This is a true story. And it was June 2020. And I saw my stepson step in front of me. I had a very good connection with him on the other side. Some people you don't, like my mother never came to me.
Yeah.
My adopted father did, but not my birth mother. And I knew them both. You see what I'm saying? So my stepson stood in front of me and I said to the people on camera, "Oh, Jimmy's here," because the channel knows. They ask who is what.
Right.
It's like they're in your living room. They know, right?
Yeah.
Like people will know in your living room. So they asked and I said, "He's standing here." I jokingly said, "I wonder who he's coming to get," assuming it would be an older relative.
Right.
I had a few in mind that were up, I'm like, they should be going.
Right.
And it did not occur to me. And then at my granddaughter's birthday, I remember with the adults saying, "Oh my God, I'm going to bury one of my children by September." It came right out of my mouth. Yeah,
Wow.
no, but it wasn't, I heard it, I said it, and they all looked at me. And then I started, I didn't know which child though. I would have assumed my older son just because he's wild.
Right.
He's a wild cat. The little one wasn't so wild. Conscientious, just a different kind of a kid. So automatically everybody would think this one, not this one. And so I warned them both to their faces. I said, "It's one of you. So I begged them to be careful. 3 days after I warned them, it was the little one that passed. Wow. And I knew it. As soon as I got the call, I was like, I fucking told, like, oh, I swore.
That's okay.
I freaking told them. And so I have predicted those things.
Wow.
7 years before my younger son died, and this, my husband can attest to this one, but how it happens for me is I went to sleep, stuff like this, and we went to sleep early, like 10:30 or something, and you could hear motorcycles going up and down our street and cars. So I thought they were racing, right? I'm like, oh, these kids are racing. Not my kids, people. And suddenly I heard he's going to die. And I remember I dragged my husband out of bed. Like seriously, it was 10:50. And I drove around the corner, parked the car, and watched a kid die on a motorcycle right in front of me. Like actually sat there before he came down the street and hit a car. And that was 7 years. I think that was 2012 when that happened.
Wow.
And watched that. Was there. I saw him step out of his body. Paramedics were still working on him. See, the body lives and the soul is already outside. So we do not hurt when we die. We hurt when we come back in. Like if you were to live through that, that's when you're going to feel the pain.
Wow.
From my experience. Yeah.
Sloan, first, let me just say, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Yeah.
But one thing that I wanted to read out to you, and I just want to know if you could just elaborate on this, because you said this around the same time that your son passed away.
Yes.
And you said, it was extraordinary, and it still surprises me that to this day, that the human spirit knows no boundaries.
Yeah, my Dewey. Yeah, my Keithy. They know no boundaries. We think they do because look, here we are in a physical, right? And we worry so much about our physical. Is it healthy? Is it cute? Is it, well, I mean, I'm a girl. I'm going to go, is it cute? Whatever we worry. But we do not, this is a cage here. This is a cage. After my son passed, and I think it was September 2020, I can only go vaguely on my memory. I have it marked down somewhere, but I had a set and I had a chair with a rug over it, and he manifested his face. Now, I did not see it because I was live streaming. So it's caught on video live stream. And people are saying, oh my God, what's happening behind you? And I had lights in my face. Right. So I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe it's Jim Morrison. I go to musicians. I'm like, it's a Jim Morrison, of course. And they sent me the picture, and it was my son's face off of a pic. Like it was literally, it manifested. And then the letter K manifested. That's him saying he's here. He's changed form. We don't believe that. We think we're taught so many lies on this planet. And even knowing what I know, it was devastating to lose my son because I couldn't like get up in the morning and see where he was or go to his house and, see him. It was devastating, but we expand out of our physical bodies. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned that there's a lot of lies that we're kind of told and we're believing, and nobody questions these things. In your opinion, what's the biggest lie that
there's so many?
I mean, we could elaborate on them, but like when somebody says, hey, this is what I believe, this is what happens.
Right.
What's like that one thing that you say like, nah, that's not true.
Okay. When they talk about death being final, they mean you drop your physical body, but they tell us that we go either from here and then straight to heaven. A lot of religions or whatever they consider to be heaven. Okay. That's not true. We go into different levels and different dimensions, and we are not dead. And a lot of people say mediums talk to the dead and therefore they're evil because it's in the Bible not to talk to the dead. Talking to the dead means people who've stepped away from God and don't accept that. They have stepped away. They cannot ascend because they are not of God. They have stepped away. Those are the dead. I'm not talking to them.
Right.
That's not who I'm talking to. I mean, you can pick up on their energy, but they're stuck on this level and they don't excel past it. So that is a huge lie. And the lie, I was at the mortuary, don't ask me why, but anyway, I was at the mortuary 2 weeks ago, and the lady going over the prices with me, her relative had passed, and she actually thinks that it's important, like what coffin you put them into. And I was like, if you care what you put your chicken into after you eat it after dinner and it's dead, okay.
Yeah.
Because they're not there. They don't even, they're not there. You can go to the graveyard, but your relatives are here. Like if you're here, they're here.
Right.
So even if you go to Japan, they're there with you because it's not the same. They're not.
No, yeah.
They're not in a box under the ground. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. No offense to anybody. But I mean, I understand if it's your belief system, but they leave I've seen them leave the physical.
Right.
The kid on the motorcycle I saw pass, I saw when he stepped out, and he stepped out in color, and it's like a mauve color, and out. I saw it with my mother-in-law too. And if you've seen people die, you see them leave, and instantly they're free.
If I may ask you, how have you seen a lot of people pass?
Quite a few, yeah.
And the first time that you witnessed that their soul kind of like leave their body, what were you thinking?
They're free. I swear.
Wow.
They're free. Yeah, I got in trouble when I was 12 when my grandfather died. He was like 97. So, I mean, it was his time. And I'd come home from camp, and my dad had picked me up at the bus station, and he's like, your Gramps is in the hospital. We're going to go see him. As I was running into the room, my dad was talking to the nurse, and they had told him that his dad had just passed. So I did not know that. I ran into the room, and I saw him beside his body. So his body was on a chair because they had to strap him down because he was dizzy, whatever, old people things. I was over here talking to him. I could see him standing there. And my dad was like, why are you doing this? And we argued all the way into the elevator. And he's like, you have to stop doing this. And I'm like, but he's right there.
Wow.
So my dad hand over the mouth and dragged me to the car, and he's like, go home, because he had to drive me home.
Wow.
But yeah, so it was a battle. And I will tell you another thing. When my father died, that father, when he passed, 2006, my son Jason was 13, and he'd met him only once. And I was, it was the day after Christmas. I hadn't been called. I didn't know he died. I did not pick up on his energy. My son Jason came downstairs, and he says, you know that grandpa? And he described him, and I said, yeah. And he goes, yeah, he told me to tell you there is a God. And he went back to sleep. And then I got the phone call.
Wow.
So my son,
me chills again.
Yeah, my son is very psychic. He will never admit it. I mean, men don't like to admit it usually, unless
Why do you think that is?
Because I think it makes them seem like they're out of control. Men like logical, like this money in my wallet, this house, this backyard, I mow my grass, I go to work, I build this, it's conceptual.
Yeah.
And so when you're saying something that nobody can prove, which then brings it to faith. Now, if you know, like if you've experienced it, you know it, but there's a lot of people that lie too, and prey on people's sadness when someone dies. And that is not good. I don't do that. I just don't no.
I mean, you mentioned that there's a lot of people that lie.
Oh gosh.
Is there something that somebody could do like to kind of like know if they're actually a psychic or not?
You have to understand yourself. And I would use this word. So for people that don't do it for a living, but are very psychic, like in tune, those are called sensitives. They go through the world picking up, and sometimes they're better than psychics because they just don't do it for a living because they have another purpose. You just have to trust your own instinct. I would say by first trusting your own instinct, because a lot of times you hear the voice that says, don't like this person, or that one's going to rip you off, or whatever. And you're like, oh, I'll just do it. And you're like, why am I doing this? And then it happens and you're like, why don't I listen to myself? That's so common because we assume the outer stuff is what we need to pay attention to. And that's not true.
Wow. That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's not true. But there's a lot of sensitives. Most of my friends are what I call sensitives. I have a friend that's a PI. She's incredibly psychic. Everything she says is psychic. Then she goes to find the evidence to back it up. Wow. She writes it out first and then finds really the evidence to follow through.
Wow.
A lot of people are like that. A lot of lawyers are like that.
I'm mind blown right now.
Yeah. It's called
That's really cool.
Yeah. And a lot of people have it. It's in their gene pool. Some people don't recognize it until they get into an accident, have a near-death experience, but it's in your gene pool. You will have a relative back who had the gift. And it's not necessarily a gift, it's an ability. I call it an ability.
Wow. It really is. That's incredible.
Yeah. It's just something that you do. And I think a lot of people like to test psychics. They're like, okay, so I have something in my pocket. What is it? I don't know. I don't care and I don't know. So for me, it works easily if the person is open, rather than skeptical. But I understand the skeptical. And, my husband and I one time were at a dinner with a friend and this is before Keithy passed, but she was Keith's boss. Okay. She worked at the studio and she was his boss, and we're eating. That's how we know her. That's just it. Right. Kathy. And so we're eating with her, and she starts connecting with my husband's grandmother and has my husband in tears at the dinner. And I'm like, shut up. What are you doing? And she's a sensitive.
Wow.
She felt it and said it, but she doesn't do it for a living. But it's as valuable. So a lot of times sensitives will have people come to them in their real life.
Interesting.
And look for guidance and help.
Very interesting. I'm just curious. Are you able to kind of like, when you see somebody, know if they're psychic or if they're a sensitive, or just by looking at them? Or is it more like you have to kind of like get to know them a little bit more to know?
I don't know. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Okay.
Because everybody thinks they're psychic.
Yeah.
So they're like, I'm this, and everybody thinks they're everything. And so the real psychics at work, you kind of do know because they're outstanding. And I'm a good workhorse one. I'm not the best and I'm not the worst, but I'm right in the middle. So I'm consistent.
Okay.
But I have friends that are amazingly outstanding and mind-blowing.
Wow.
Like beyond, but they cannot live in the day-to-day world. I'm in between two worlds. They get very stuck in the other world, so they do not function well in this world.
So you mentioned that you're in this world and you're in the other world at the same time. Which world is better in your opinion?
I'm always going to say the other side.
What's the biggest difference?
This, well, it is I feel very trapped in this world, like with what they have, you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to, I don't want to. Like, I don't understand why I'm a hostage here. And it feels like a hostage here. So I'm sure I chose to come here, they say, but I actually think I was kidnapped. So
interesting.
I'm milk carton on another planet somewhere.
Wow.
Is my face. They're looking for me over there and I'm here. But I think it's because this is a very evil place. I feel that on this planet.
Yeah.
So when I feel that energy, I don't like it.
The crazy thing is you could see it manifesting every day.
Yeah. Well, it's now. We've cut through the veil. Yeah. It's definitely now. I've been talking about all of this for 30 years. They call me crazy. I've had my kids threatened to be taken away. Guess what? I was right. 30 years ago, I was saying this.
Yeah.
When I met, and at 30, this is year 37, where I would have met my husband. So 37 years ago on our first date, I said, the world is run by pedophiles and Satanists. That was my conversation then. They look at you like, she's crazy. But that's what I observed growing up. So it's always been obvious to me. But the way, and people ask that, then why do you continue to do whatever it is you do around people that you know are not good?
Right.
Here's why. Because there's always a balance. So anytime, let's say you're an energetic thug, let's just put it that way. Okay. Like a gangster, energetic mafia, whatever, energy mafia. And then there's somebody who is bringing healing and light. The mob needs to know that there's somebody who's not them. So for each one of theirs, there's one of ours. And that's how we're on this world. So it's actually a spiritual war. And most of us don't even know that.
It's very interesting that you say that, just because, look, let's just be real. I've had a conversation with you about how from a very early age, I've just felt very kind of like different.
Disconnected. Yeah.
And it's really about like having conversations with you where it's like, it's allowing me just to kind of like accept these things and just feel normal.
You are as normal as anybody else on this planet.
No, but the truth is that being able to talk to you when we did and we had that conversation, like it just shifted my perspective. And that's why I really just wanted to have this conversation. Like I really do think that there are so many people that think they know, but really don't know what's going on.
And I really don't know either. Let me just preface that. I could be shocked if I passed over. I know what I know from my reference of what I know. Like I understand from my experiences, but we all have different ways of coming about it. So the way that I say it is, when there's a teacher, the students will come for that lesson till they outgrow it and then we'll find another teacher. And in families, you will often have soul groups that come in, and then there's one scallywag, which would be like yourself, and they're here to uproot this way of thinking, conventional versus non-conventional. Or you could have a family where everybody's like a hippy dippy bohemian, and you could have like a Republican over here or whatever,
Right.
Democrat,
Yeah.
Republican, whatever,
Yeah.
someone who follows that.
Different, yeah.
Yeah. And the family's like, what are you doing? For me, that would be the hardest because
Yeah.
I'm so not like that. But you can have that, or you can have somebody that's completely like, trust the science, do this, and then somebody who prays.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we all have to fight the battle for our self-expression. On the other side, we have free self-expression.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
You talk to a lot of older people and they just tell you like live life unregretfully. Like just do what you need to do. I mean,
Drive over that guy on the sidewalk. He's in your way.
but the question is, since you have experience with people that have passed on,
Yeah.
do they ever talk to you about maybe the regret that they have here on this earth?
Yeah, some of them, and I'll tell you what it is.
But and also second part of the question, how can somebody here on this physical world live their life to the fullest potential?
Okay, the fullest potential is, number one, you have to know thyself and love yourself. And then you can love others. It's about, if you follow somebody's mindset in your family, let's say you're staunch Irish Catholic family, just
Right.
as an example, because I know so many anyway, those people, and you don't use your way to think and you hide what you want to do. So you get married or you have kids, and maybe you
Right.
want to be freelance, and maybe you're gay, straight, or whatever, and you want to go off that way, and maybe you want to live in a different country, but you follow it. So you have to love yourself enough to be authentic. And once you can be authentic, then you can do anything to your potential, because you're doing what you're truly here to do, whatever that is. And it's not, people think, oh, I'm supposed to be, famous or the best doctor, or the best lawyer, whatever it is. No, sometimes you never know your impact. I found that your impact by talking to one person who you're not even considering it. And the impact you have on their life is so extraordinary,
Right.
that is your purpose.
Sloan, when did you feel like you knew what your purpose here on earth was?
I think I'm just finding it. I've been doing this work always, but purposefully, I think weirdly, I'm here for my family. That's what I think. So any of this other stuff is just stuff I do. Like when I look at purpose, I never realized that while having children, that was my purpose.
Wow.
I'm just saying that, like anything else I do is irrelevant to me at this point and doesn't feel authentic. Being 100% unconditionally there if they need me, and I'm talking about my other son and my grandkids, that is my purpose. Nothing else matters to me.
That's beautiful.
That's what I've come full circle. Now, if you'd have talked to me at 20, I would have been like, I'm going to teach this. My ego would have been in it. I don't really have that. When you get older, you lose your ego. You look in the mirror, you look at yourself, you're like, okay, whatever. Anyway, and you do the work that you do.
I wanted to kind of give you some flowers real quick. I think
I'm like, wait, what?
No, but like seriously, leading up to this conversation, I've just been doing a lot of research, and I realized like you've helped so many people heal. And I wanted to know, do you ever take a moment to just think about how many people you've positively impacted? And
No, not at all. Because I'll tell you again, it goes back to family. The people, I love the people that talk to me, all of them. Like I have friends, I don't really know them and they don't really know me, but I have people I know all over and I love them. But to me, it's my family. So until they can see me, it bugs me. Until they can see me,
Wow.
So, yeah, my goal is in this life to hopefully get them to see me for who I am and not who they think I am. To answer, it's a weird thing, but it always goes back to them because that's like really my focus is to get them to see who I am because they don't see who I am.
I agree with you, just because I'm the kind of person that's family above all.
Yes.
Like nothing above them.
Yeah.
So-
It's very hard too because they don't care all the time. They're like, yeah, whatever, crazy. Go.
I'm the older sibling, so I understand
Yes.
that. Like it's hard. But it really is like having conversations like this where I know, the things that I'm doing are for a reason. You know what I mean?
You don't know the reason. You can't possibly understand the reason until you're on the other side of events that have happened, myself included. I don't presume to know. I don't, the only thing I can tell you is going back years, I've always liked working with runaway teens and drug addicts and prostitutes, working sex workers, whatever you want to call them. Okay. Of all levels. And those kids keep in touch with me. And so that's one of the greatest, that's a great gift. They're other people's children keep in touch with me as they evolve through life. So I enjoy that a lot.
Wow. What's the greatest aspect about your abilities, in your opinion?
I'll tell you, it goes again back to my son, Keith, but feeling that he was going to pass and listening. And I'll tell you this, because I'm not the one, because I just can't all the time, but I'm not going to go around apologizing 24/7 because I've already done that 24/7. And so when I had the inclination, and this could be affecting with anybody, but I heard the words, and in particular, Keith. Now, I was probably a better mom to him than my older son, because my older son was wild. So I was more ghetto with him. Okay. Truth, just stalking that kid everywhere. But I heard the words, ask for forgiveness from Keith. So and I heard it 6 months before he passed. So a couple of weeks before he died, I went in the kitchen when I went to visit him and I said, Keithy, forgive me for being a bad mother. Because there were times I would come after him physically. It's just stupid shit he was doing.
Right.
And I was able to do that. And it's the single most important thing in my life. He gave me a hug and told me, I love you. You were a good mom.
Wow.
Had he died and I not done that, the guilt that I would have carried about not knowing what he thought would have destroyed me. So I recommend, after my experience, that if you have something to say to anybody, whether it's good or bad, that you say it, because you don't know when they're leaving.
Wow. Never
hold it in. Say it. Say it every day if you can. Like if it's a loving thing, say it every day. I mean, obviously, if you're berating them, don't. Just make your point known and disappear.
Yeah, tell the people you love them, you love them.
Yeah, that's it. And that was my single shocking moment in my life, because I never listened to stuff like, I'm like, ask for forgiveness. Shut up. I raised him. He's fine.
Wow.
But that time I felt, and I meant it with him. He was a very sensitive child and I was a little bit harsh. My older son can take the harshness, but he kind of was more sensitive.
Wow.
In my opinion, just looking at him. And my greatest teacher is him, because to live through that, I really had to put my faith and my work, because you can tell a parent of a deceased child that you understand, but you don't till it happens to you. So I also live that in order to continue that lesson on for other people. So that's my next chapter in my life, is to kind of explore grief with people, how they deal with grief.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sloan, how has I know you say you don't call it a gift, but I think it's a gift. How do you think that your gift has helped you heal?
Oh my gosh. That's an interesting thing. I could not understand why I was adopted into the family. Such a proper, whatever, I can't explain it.
Opposite, right?
Yeah, just really proper. And I'm just not. And so, I mean, I know how to be proper. I don't care.
But it was inauthentic.
Yeah, it wasn't who I was. They didn't see me. So I've learned that they are also there to learn something from you and you from them. So that has helped me heal quite a bit. And the connection I had with my adopted father after he passed, because he spent a good 15 years around me. So he was watching who I was. He had to get his education I could feel him. So could other family members.
Right.
We could feel him, but he learned who I was. And I think it was part of his growing process. There's no time to them on the other side, but I'm just giving you the time here. And then I kind of felt like he went on, but he had to see who I was as a person.
Yeah.
Because maybe he forgot, while being a parent, who I was. So that was interesting. My mother, I never felt, but it does help you heal. And I help other people, because the other mothers I talk to that have lost children is extremely important. A lot of abuse, a lot of sexual abuse people, that's what psychics deal with a lot, because a lot of the issues of drugs, alcohol, and then people never talk about this, but it is a thing. Your body, when you disrespect it with drugs and alcohol, I'm not talking moderation, so don't come for me. People are always like, oh, I smoke weed. I'm like, good for you. Yippee.
High five.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. But it opens your body up to other energies. Now, a lot of times, And this is going to sound really weird, but with the passing of O.J. Simpson, who I did not like in life, just so we're very clear, I did find him a very handsome and, athletically powerful person because it was obvious on his physical. When he crossed over, I felt deeply saddened for him. I know, don't come for me. I know what he did, and I believe he did it. But I felt sad for him because he was fractured in his mind. So when he crosses over, he is going to see what he did that he didn't see here because he was hugely on drugs and out of his mind. Also believe he came from a trauma-based family, was traumatized all the way up on purpose, to split the mind, and then used as something that they use to whatever their game is. I don't know the game, but whatever that game is. So I tell people to respect their bodies, because the more you take drugs, and then I deal with a lot of people that are childhood trafficked, sexually abused. And that's something I've done for 40 years. When I was a kid on the streets, I still counseled other kids on the streets as young as 12, when I was like 16. They're on the streets, literally working. Those kids, they get taken over by the energies of people that go into their body, drink, do drugs, and sometimes they don't know who they are. So one of the greatest things I feel is to help somebody recognize who they are in their God-given body without anything impeding that.
Yeah. No, Sloan, seriously, one of the things that I applaud you on is that really you don't shy away from things. Like, if you need to talk about something, you will. And I really do think that the child exploitation and all the work that you've done with that, and just speaking up about those things, I'm telling you, like, it's really made such a difference. And it really takes one person to just talk about
keep
something
talking about it,
to really kind of like move the needle and get it more like.
My friend Lori called me. If she's watching, she'll watch this because I told her what I was doing. But she called me this morning and she said, 5 years ago, my friends at work were calling you a crazy, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, now everything you said, they're all copying. And I said, good, they're copying, because you want the information out there. You want people to actually believe it to be true. Wow. Not just one crazy blonde person in the valley, psychic. Say, you know how they like to bag on us. They like to go, she's great. That's why. And when you deliver a message, that's why you want to stay sober and in control too, because you're delivering the message. So if you're meth addict, you may have the correct message, but people are not listening to you because they're like, she's on meth or crack or whatever, drunk, or she's this. You want to stand up completely articulate and authentic. And they're like, well, what she's saying is bizarre, but she seems to be able to present it.
Right.
That's also something I learned. I learned that from my childhood family, because there was a lot of alcohol in the family, and I noticed who they would scapegoat. And not that he was wrong in what he was saying, but he was an easy target. So I learned as a kid, I'm not going to make myself a target. You're not going to get me.
Wow.
So if you come after me, you're going to have to come at me intellectually and articulately, and you're not going to use anything. So I believe it's important, whether you're on the streets, whether you've had affairs, whether you've done drugs, I don't care, whatever, robbed a grocery store, whatever, that you say it so nobody can use it against you, because that also impedes you from moving forward in your life.
Wow. That part right there.
Because you hide. So if you hide, you can't really be free and authentic because you're hidden. So I say, speak it. I say, speak it. Even if it's embarrassing, speak it.
Yeah.
Because they can't hold it. And it depends on, like, if it's, your job, your family, your husband, wife, lover, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, or society. If you're trying to get up there, they always have something against you. That's not the case. I learned that so young, because I learned it in my family. That I did learn from them.
Wow.
I observed it and I thought, no, speak it.
The fact that you noticed that so early on too
did.
speaks volumes about you.
Yeah. I saw it and I'm like, oh, you're not going to do that to me. I will say it at every dinner. And I did explain the abuse that was going on in my childhood to every single family member. And I'm happy to say they did nothing.
Wow.
Not one of them did anything.
Do you look back on those experiences and those family members that may have shut you out? And do you have a level of like resentment towards them?
I look at them interestingly because they didn't want to upset the financial aspect of the family. Okay. Because it was the family had money. So they were protecting their own interests, which is what 90% of people do. So I felt like that continues a cycle. So I didn't like that. And of course now they want to talk to you. And I'm like, I can't talk BS with you because you still can't acknowledge this. And you act like you acknowledge it and you try to explain why you didn't do anything. But I'm like, I don't care to talk to you really.
Yeah. Wow. Very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. People will always save themselves. And I think it takes a certain level of understanding that even if you do that, you're going to suffer in the end. So it might be better to step out. None of us want to get locked up in jail though. So I do understand. I'm like, 20 years in jail. I'm bailing too. See ya. I hopefully don't do anything to do that, but I understand the thinking, but for children, it's unacceptable to me.
I agree with you.
It's very unacceptable. Children should be, but they don't like children on this planet.
If I may ask you why?
Why?
Well, this is, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But, this is what I heard, that a lot of the time they'll prey on these children just because it's the closest thing to God.
Yeah. It is. Children are
like the purest form.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Children come in, they're so cute. Like, look at, I have a little granddaughter who's 9 months. I mean, she's darling. She knows nothing bad, except what she sees in the house, which is nothing.
Wow,
Everybody
yeah.
loves her. It's also energy harvesting and understand. Okay. So I call this planet the beast system. I have acquaintances that are Satanists that tell me we're not all like what you described. Like I will get into actual arguments. Everything that I participate in, I am always presented with people that I like who do not follow God.
Right.
Okay. Like, because I like them as people, but they are morally thinking differently. So you can call it Freemason, you can call it beast system, you can call it Satanism, Luciferianism, Scientology. You can call it that. You can call it all of that. But what it is it's the opposite of what God says. So I've called this planet reverse world.
Wow.
Now they use children for a multitude of things. Number one, children's energy is a direct connection because they have not been blocked. Up until about age 4, they're able to leave the planet. Like even if a child's higher consciousness doesn't want to be here, they can take themselves out. Well, however little kids die, they're not cemented or committed into the life. Okay. So they do have until they're 4 to kind of decide. That's our Earth age. I don't know how that's determined. This is something I've always known, but they also harvest their bodies, their blood for their drug. You know what I'm talking about. Do you know what I'm talking about? Chrome, adrenochrome. Now you're going to get kicked off the internet for that. There you go. Bye-bye. And they believe they have a right to do whatever they want. So they believe God was cruel and controlling. So they read the Bible the opposite way that we read it. And they could be right. I'm not saying, to my knowledge, they're not. But on earth, how do we know? We don't.
Right.
So, but I do know the devil's a liar. And it's not one pitchforked, like Seinfeld episode like this. There's that funny one anyway about the devil's game. And it's funny. But you're too young for Seinfeld. Anyway.
I love Seinfeld.
Okay, do you?
I love Seinfeld.
Okay.
I also love Curb Your Enthusiasm, by the way. That's the other one.
Okay. So there's this Seinfeld episode, but every time I talk about this, my eye twitches because I'm like, oh, twitch. But what they do is they promise people what people want on earth. So if you have no spiritual foundation, you will fall for it. Money, wealth, fame, if you just do this. Now, where it's a lie is somebody like, I can't even think of his name, Warren Buffett. Somebody like Warren Buffett, billionaire, gazillionaire, whatever. And you hear him say, and I quote this, so he's had everything in life. Plus he has a wife and a mistress. And if you look at him, I'm like, why?
Crazy, huh?
This is me. I'm like, okay, can't get a date, but this guy has a wife and a mistress. Alrighty. Anyhow, he will say he's going to leave all of the money to charity. He has kids, 5 of them or something. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but he has a bunch of kids. Why? Because he doesn't really have that money. It's a trick. It's a trick.
Interesting.
It's a trick. That's why they always say they're going to leave it to charity because they have to. It's payback. They have the lifestyle while they're here, but that's not for their family.
Yeah.
Not for their family at all. And they do perverted things. Now there's families, they're born into it. They invert their children in utero Okay. People don't like to say that when I call somebody a guy who's a girl. And, I get yelled at for that at family dinner conversations. Like, you're crazy. And I'm like, no, they give them hormones. So like if I'm carrying a boy child and I'm in one of those Freemason families, if you will, a Luciferian, whatever, they will put hormones in my belly that will turn the boy into a feminized or a masculine woman, I guess. That's why they have surrogates. That's why they're all related. You're never getting into what they're doing. You have to branch out and go differently. You are never getting in there unless you're one of them.
Wow.
And they trick. All your sports figure people are modern day slaves.
Wow.
And that's not a color reference. They are not allowed to spend that money. They end up in jail. They end up murdering. They wife beat. Their brains go crazy because they are programmed. They are all ritualized in childhood. And it's about harnessing energy that's out of the physical body. We have this body, but there's so much more to us.
Yeah.
That's what they're after.
Sloan, with so many different opinions, obviously somebody, they could believe what they want to believe.
Absolutely.
There's going to be a lot of people that have opposing opinions.
Oh, yeah.
How do you deal with those opposing opinions when, for example, like you have this ability and you could see different things compared to other people.
Yeah.
And, you might be very certain about one thing, but they're telling you, that's not how it is.
You're crazy.
Yeah. How do you deal with that?
I will argue. I have done it at family dinners. And by the way, they've all called me to say, you were right. I'm like, especially about Nickelodeon.
There it is.
That was a family dinner like 10 years ago, my cousin's 60th birthday or whatever. And everybody, I was like, this, and they were all like, okay, crazy. And they're like, put a gag on her. And just because I would roam free and talk. But the way that I really look at it is, I don't care if you believe me. I know what I know. So I'm going to live in what I know until proven opposite or different or whatever.
Wow.
So yeah, people will tell me, but how many people have you heard that say weed is good to smoke every day? I'm sorry. No.
Yeah.
They're like, it's okay. The government legalized it. I'm like, well, that's why you should really be worried now. It was better before they legalized it.
Wait, can we touch on that? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think, so when there's a group mindset, so hundreds of millions of people want to do weed. And I'm not saying it's not good for you if you have medical problems, because it is. They've proven that. But the mass consumption of it, where they tax it, means that they preserve it because it's about money. What's in those preservatives, which from food, what's in the food? That's why I don't eat Taco Bell.
You.
That's what I'm saying. It's not fresh. What do they do to save it? To save money. So they have proven now that people are getting schizophrenia from the weed because they don't know what they're curing it with. Yeah. You have no idea what they're spraying on that weed that the government says, go to your weed shop. And they all say our weed's the best. Sure.
It's going to get you super faded.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay, yeah, whatever. No, I'll grow it in my backyard if I want it, and I'll do it that way. But it's when the establishment gets, like, look at alcohol. Alcohol is a direct doorway to, I'll use the word demonic influence, but look at how many families it ruins. It ruins everything.
Yeah.
It ruins everything. I'm not talking an occasional drink or a glass of wine. When you have an alcoholic, they abuse people, they talk back, they drive drunk, they kill children, they beat their wives, they ruin their marriages, they steal money, they do all kinds of stuff because it's not really them. They're taken over. And alcohol is known to do that.
Wow.
I don't drink either. You can tell I hate it, but so I could be biased. I'm not an addict. I'm just
no. But this is so eye opening. Like, I'm glad that we are talking about these things.
Yeah, people in moderation is fine. I have no problem. But if you hear like, I'm trying to think of actors. They say they're stone cold drunk, and their eyes go black. Well, that's also possession. It's not possession like The Exorcist, but it's possession within your energy field.
Wow.
And alcohol is a gateway for that. It opens the door, like opening your front door and just saying, hey, homeless dudes,
come on in.
Come on in. And then one comes in and then there's 6 of them. And then you're like, now I'm taking over. So is it really my need to want to yell at my wife, or am I taken over by what this influence brings in?
Wow.
And it can be multiple influences, not just one energy. It can be a bunch. People are not even aware there's your house. You think you lock the doors. Spirits don't care. They're in here. If they want to follow you home from a graveyard, or like, let's say you do a party drug, they'll come in your house and they'll start doing stuff.
What's the best way somebody can protect their energy?
Oh my God, don't do drugs or alcohol. Okay, so I'm whispering because I know everybody's like, oh, shut up, lady. I have family members that used to call me a stupid sober person.
Crazy.
Yeah, they hate it.
Wow.
But because see, that's the demon talking. It's like, of course you want to illustrate bad behavior, but
Right.
the best way, okay, truthfully, exercise and connect with nature. That cleans your energy field. So touching a tree, putting your feet on grass, picking flowers,
Hiking.
yeah, that's why I'm always hiking. But it cleans your energy field immediately.
Okay.
Immediately. Like with no thought. So it's really good. Little kids go out and play, not on cement, trees. Okay, that's why.
Dirt.
Yeah, dirt, like real stuff in your backyard, not fake stuff. That's why I hate fake grass. I'm like, what are you doing with that?
It looks, honestly, too, hot take, it looks horrible.
It looks like crap.
Yeah.
And then dogs pee on it. I can't.
And it stinks.
Yeah, I can't. I can't. That's another thing. Keep fake grass out of your house. That's not a psychic thing. It's just a
It's a cleanliness thing.
yeah, it's a the other thing is salt baths, because salt immediately cleans. It's like bleach for the energy field. Do not bath in bleach. That is not what I'm saying. So it clears it. They say sage. You can sage your house. I do prayer. And the thing I like to do better than anything is I use chimes. So I use musical chimes to neutralize the energy in my house. So if I used to work in person for almost 40 years. So people came into my house, all kinds of energies. I use gongs to break the energy in between people. Because like if you're angry and you come for a reading, your energy stays. If you're sad, that stays. If you're unreasonably happy, that stays. I need it neutral. I need a neutral palette to work from. So I like gongs.
Wow.
A little gong. You can get
I got to go get one. I need a gong.
I love gongs. I gong in the morning. I'm sure my neighbors are like, what is that crazy girl doing? Yeah.
Okay.
I gong because it neutralizes anger.
Right.
And so we don't understand that there are people who refuse to go into, and it's not the light, it's refuse to move on to a different dimension. Because remember, Lucifer was a light bearer. So going into the light, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. It means reincarnation cycle back here. Absolutely not. I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
Just make it very clear. My guides are probably like, yeah, you're going to come back. I'll be fighting with them when I cross over. But we don't realize what is around us. You know, always keep your sinks and your toilets clean in your house. Not that you wouldn't, but keep clutter out of your house. Keep sinks clear because they hide in dark things. The things on the vents. Spray lavender and rose oil into the vents. They stay in dark.
I'm looking around right now. I'm like, I really gotta clean this place up.
I know it's fine. It's not messy. But in every vents and in sinks, the energy can stay there because it's not something you pay attention to.
Wow. No, I'm glad that you touched on all of that.
Yeah.
Sloan, what is the biggest misconception about what you do?
Oh my God. Okay. That we look a certain way, and that is usually alcoholic, drunk, high, possibly fat, and in a trailer. You can look like that.
Yeah.
It's the perception that you don't look psychic. So the media has done a good job of making us look like clowns so that people don't listen to us.
Wow.
And so that's a problem. Kids can be psychic. My granddaughter was psychic. I mean, like she's 12 now, the oldest one. When she was 3, she said a lot of stuff. It was natural to her. Her mother has it. So father has it. And I'm sure both families together, it's a thing, you know? So little kids can be psychic. You don't know who's psychic. They may come to tell you something and you're like, wait, what? And it can be just, understand also, if they need to get a message to you, let's say somebody passes like a grandfather and they need to get a message to you for whatever reason. They want to give you a warning or they want to do something and nobody around you is listening to them. Okay. So, because it's very subtle. It's not like they jump in front of you and go, blah.
Right.
They can, but that's not the usual. They will use a host body, which means a person in your environment who may not be a relative, could be somebody in a club, could be somebody at the DMV, God forbid. Anyway, that you're at the DMV.
Wow,
but it's a host
crazy.
body. And that person for that second, their physical self steps aside and your person comes in here and they speak to you. You don't know them, but they say it.
Whoa.
And you get the message. That's why you don't know.
That's crazy that you say that just because I never really knew what that was.
Yeah.
But it's like after my grandpa passed away.
I know, that's who I heard to tell you about.
Oh my gosh,
That's why I
Sloan.
said that.
Got me chills.
So they have to get a message to you.
Yeah.
So that's why I said your grandfather, like a grandfather,
Yeah.
because I felt like that's what
No,
you were
but the
going to
crazy
say.
thing is like I'll be in a store randomly and like somebody will say something. And then the crazy thing is, Sloan, like you'll turn around or
Yeah.
something and then you turn back around, they're not there anymore.
Yeah, because they're a host body. They're sent or it can be a host apparition. Like it can be a person that nobody else sees that you see that gives you the message, but they can do that. People tell you you're crazy and mentally ill and put you on psych meds if you say that. That's why I stay sober. So I know I'm not crazy.
Yeah. Wow. No, like I keep saying this, but I'm so glad that we had this conversation
Yeah,
just
it's
because
interesting.
it's interesting, but it's also healing.
Yeah, that you know that because you'll think you're crazy. You'll be like, why? That's why I say you can't know who's psychic.
Yeah.
You have no idea. The body's the instrument. I keep hitting this mic.
okay.
Hopefully I'm not getting yelled at by the mic guy back there. But you never know the body that it's going to come
Yeah.
in because it's an energetic thing. Energetic is not contained by physical. Wow. And they want you to think like, I swear, and I get people saying, "Oh my God, you're not spiritual because you swear." I'm like, shut the fuck, shut up. I'm on
Tell
earth.
'em, no,
yeah,
tell 'em.
Yeah, shut the F up. I'm a person.
Yeah.
I believe Jesus got mad at his people. So if he can get mad at them and he's a light worker, then I can get mad at them and I'm just a peon down here.
Right.
So be quiet, you know?
Wow. No.
They like to discredit for anything, to keep you that, but you're a person first. And then the information comes from wherever. It can come from a homeless person. Yep, it can come from
that's
whomever.
so awesome.
Yeah, so we don't know.
Wow.
I believe we don't know. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
In so many
seriously.
different ways.
Yeah, we think like we all wear our uniforms. Like I'm a bus driver, I'm a restaurant owner, I'm a mic person or a sound technology person, I'm a doctor, but that's one fraction of who you are.
Wow.
That means nothing. Here it means something because the currency of this planet is work, money in exchange for rent, food, whatever. But other than that, that's not who you are.
Yeah.
You're here to make a difference in whatever way you can.
So this is my last question because I know that
Yeah.
if we could sit here for 3 more hours, but what do you want your legacy to be on this physical planet?
Plane. It's really for my children. I say it again. I want people to know that honest to God, that they can have a relationship when their loved one pass, in particular children, that is different. You have to learn how to communicate in a different way with your person, but you can still communicate with them and you have not lost them.
Wow.
We say, I lost my brother, my cousin, my
But they're
son.
still here.
No, they're still here and you have to learn how to communicate differently. My hope is before I die that people will learn how to use telepathy. I've always used telepathy, not that anybody picks up on it, but I'm just saying I've had frequencies with people where I can connect with them. That's how we connect with our loved ones. So I want every mother of a child who's passed to understand that their child is still here and that they need to figure out how to step out of their grief momentarily to listen and then communicate differently with that child. Wow. That's what my hope is.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's my hope. Living this, that's what I'm working on next. So
I think you're going to exceed that.
yeah, that would be what I hope, that you learn how to communicate differently.
Wow. Sloan, thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. How fun.
Where can people find you?
Oh, they can find me everywhere. Just Google it. There's haters out there too. Fuck the haters. Okay, so
Say it louder, honestly.
Yeah, sloanbella.com. I'm doing that, and then on YouTube at Sloan Bella.
Perfect.
Everything is at Sloan Bella. The other people are fake, so do not entertain them.
No, yeah, literally. If anybody messages you and say, "Hey, it's Sloan,"
and I need $80 to get rid of the evil. I don't do that.
yeah, no, it's not her.
Least of all, yeah. It's usually they put my name with my picture, but if you look at it, it's not my name.
Yeah.
I'm at Sloan Bella. And then to really find out at the website, like sloanbella.com.
This is directly to you.
Yeah, directly to me, and you can email me. And so, yeah, that's it.
Well, Sloan, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. How fun.
Thank you for listening and watching
Thank
another
you. I'm like,
episode.
my neck's been turned like this the whole time.
No worries. Thank you for listening and watching this episode with Sloan. I'm Andro Mammo. I'll see you guys next week.